Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash. The double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is U.S. abandons decade-old partnership with Europe. Right, and that's the title. As you can see, I got it from this Russian news agency page. Right, and I like to go over here to to see what Russia's talking about because ultimately you know, they're enemies with America. So it's two sides to this coin, and ultimately we know through prophecy that Russia will be, attacking America in the near future, along with some of America's old allies, right? That being Europe, NATO, and EU, right? So that's why I like to go over here and see what's going on with like China and Russia and all of that, because like I said, they're enemies to America, and they're in Bible prophecy to go against America, right? So anyway, it says U.S. abandons decade-old partnership with Europe in 2025 newspaper. So this is the article here. It's posted December 28th in the morning, 5 a.m., basically 6 a.m. It says the newspaper also, so we're going to read it. It says the United States effectively broke its long-standing alliance with Europe in 2025. Spain's El Paris newspaper said, all right, it says looking back at the past year, one piece of news is enough to make it a symbol of our era. In 2025, which we're coming to the end of 25 now, it says the United States broke its long-standing 80-year alliance with Europe, probably the longest in history. The paper said U.S. troops have not packed. The paper said so. The paper said that. Now it says U.S. Troops have not packed their bags or closed any of their military bases, at least for now. The North Atlantic Alliance still exists on paper. The author of the article said, yet Donald Trump's second term as U.S. president has featured hostility toward Europeans and a rapprochement. Let me see, what is this?
Rapprochement.
Rapprochement. Okay. It says establishment or resumption of relations. Okay. With Russia. The article notes. It says the newspaper also emphasized it was now unclear whether Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty on Collective Defense was anything more than an empty declaration. So ultimately, Article 5 is, you attack one, you attack all, and they go to war. And basically, with this national security strategy that Trump put out, right, New York 47, he was basically telling Europe they need to handle their own defenses. He's going to focus on America, basically what he said. So there's a lot happening here because, if you look into it, you can see that they wanted to basically use Ukraine and Europe to weaken Russia, but Ukraine and Europe has not succeeded at that fact. So Trump is running with his tail between his legs away from NATO and EU and trying to buddy up with Russia is what it's saying, here. And that's what we're seeing. And the scriptures say that, the scriptures say that in Nahum 3, right, that they have forborne to fight, they become as women, right? And they're still preparing, but it's going to be to no avail. Pursuant to Ezekiel 38, we know that Russia is going to eventually come to the thought to go against Israel and America. And ultimately, Israel is going to be the one that drags America into this thing because America is running away, right? And Israel is already making their way over here to America to talk with Trump about, war plans, basically, right? And that's what the whole world is saying, right? It says on December 5th, Washington released the updated U.S. national security strategy, which particularly highlights concern that Europe is on the verge of civilizational erasure due to policy pursued by the EU leadership and other transitional bodies, and will be unrecognizable in 20 years. The U.S. administration doubts that some European countries will have enough economic and military capacity to remain reliable allies for Washington. So Trump is saying, we don't think you're going to be a reliable ally. And as you can see, they're failing. right? You have it. If you don't know, EU is backing Ukraine. There's NATO troops over there in Ukraine trying to fight off Russia, and they're basically getting obliterated, right? They're losing. Trump is seeing that. Trump is running away and telling them they need to do something about it, because I don't see you as a reliable ally. If anything, they see Russia as a reliable ally. But we know pursuant to scriptures that Israel is going to drag America into this war, right? So I searched it up. It's in a couple places, right? But even so, like I said, they posted this here. All right, this is I believe this is Iran. They also posted the same thing, December 28th. And then we have the actual news article here. It says the U.S. Secretary of Defense, who U.S. President Donald Trump prefers to call the Secretary of War, has announced to European countries that they will have to assume the bulk of NATO's conventional defense capabilities. So I was like, what does that mean? On their soil. So basically, when he said you have to assume, he's telling them that you need to fend for yourself. Right? It says the phrase "the bulk of NATO's conventional defense capabilities" refers to a significant strategic shift currently being demanded by the United States, that European allies must assume the majority of the military forces and equipment required for Europe's defense. So what's happening here is that we're seeing prophecy unfold in real time, with the NATO hating the whore, right? The whore being America, right? And the 10 horns, which we'll get into, right, being the NATO, and they're hating, the whore. So let me grab those real quick. Revelations, it was 18. All right, Revelation 17, it says, get to the point, Revelation 17:16. Right, it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore." Right, so the beast is the whole system, NATO, EU, right, America together. But you have the 10 horns, and then you also have the whore. The whore rides the beast, right? The whore is America. The whore is in charge, right? The 10 horns is NATO, EU, who has agreed to give their kingdom unto the beast, right? It says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore." So now we're seeing in real time why these 10 horns are going to hate the whore, right? These are prophecies that the elder apostles of GMS have been bringing out for a long time now, even their elders, going back to the 1960s, right? And these things are happening now, right? It says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." Right. Once again, we know that pursuant to the scriptures in Ezekiel 38, that Russia will be joined, with many allies, to go against Israel and ultimately America. It says, so Ezekiel 38:1, it says, "And the word of the Lord Yahweh Bashmiah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Right? It's Russia, from the land of Russia. All right, that's what it's talking about. The chief prince, the captain of Meshach and Tubal, which goes into Turkey, right? "And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmiah, behold, I am against thee, O Gog. O Gog, the Russians are Edomites," right? And we know that the Most High, is going to basically destroy all Edomites, right? But he's using these Edomites, which is in Russia, to come against the Edomites that's in our land, Jerusalem, and also America, right? Because that's who controls the world right now, the Edomites. This is Amos 1:11, says, "Thus said the Lord Yahweh Bashmiah, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and kept his wrath forever. But I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the palaces of Basra." Now, you have America is going to be destroyed, right, by Russia, but then you also have, Yahweh Shah coming to destroy the armies at the same time of his return, because World War III is going to be happening, in the Levant region. Isaiah 34:1, come near ye nations to hear and hearken ye people, let the earth hear and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord Yahweh Bashmawashah is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, he hath delivered them to the slaughter. So we see and know that when his word takes place, ultimately, the return of our Lord Yahweh, he's going to destroy them. That's pursuant to 2nd Ezra chapter 13, right? And I got another precept when it said they durst fight, they're afraid, but they durst fight. Gotta look that one up. All right, so Yahweh comes, it says, 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 3, it says, I beheld and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heavens, and when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth felleth when it filled the fire. Right, so this is the coming of Yahweh Shai, right, with that great mountain, which is a great fathership, right, where it's a chariot. And he's going to, come over there to the Levant region, which is in the east. You got Isaiah 63. Who is this that comes from Basra with dyed garments, glorious in his, apparel? And ultimately, let me see. I'll go over there. I'll go to Isaiah 63 after this. All right, so jumping down to verse 9, it says, and lo, matter of fact, verse 8, it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a glass of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. All right, so let me go to Isaiah 63. It says, Isaiah 63:1, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra, that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength? I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Now, this is talking about Yahweh Shai, of course. It says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat, right? And that's because he's going to do a great slaughter. And as you've seen, he's going to destroy the armies over there in the Levant region. Let me get looking for right. Okay, Joel 3. See, the nations will be judged. It said Joel 3:1. For behold, in those days and in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. So this is us coming together as a nation, right? Being brought back to Yahweh Bahashim Shai. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Right. And this is talking about the Levant region over there in the east. And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. We get this word Jehoshaphat. It says basically the Lord's judgment. But as you can see here, it says a symbolical name of a valley near Jerusalem, which is a place of ultimate judgment. So this is over there in the east, right? In the Levant region. Let me grab this other one. There's like okay, so that was where I was at. I thought it was Revelation for some reason. But right here is where it says, and I read it. All right, so this is what I was looking for. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 8. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid and durst fight. Right. So this is talking about the Levant region, and basically World War III, and they're going to be afraid, but they're still going to fight. It says, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue a cast out sparks and tempests. Right. So basically, fire beams coming from the chariots. It says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dirt, dust, and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Now, if you get Ezekiel 39, or which I got right here, ultimately, God also loses too, right? Even though the Most High Yahweh Bashmal is going to use God to, go against America and Israel, ultimately, pursuant to Isaiah 37, they're going to be over there fighting too, and they're going to be destroyed. So, I read it, Ezekiel 39:1, it says, therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, thus said the Lord Yahweh Bashmal, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach Tubal, and I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee. I will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. So a big host, some will be left, right? But a big host will come up for war. It says, and I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. So as you can see, the people that's with them over there in that Levant region area they're going to die, and he's going to cause them to be eaten up by birds, right? And beasts of the field to be devoured. It says, thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmal, and I will send a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh Bashmal. So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh Bashmal, the Holy One in Israel. So as you can see, even though the Most High Yahweh is going to use, Russia, ultimately the soldiers and whatnot of the Russian soldiers will die, and also some of the land of Magog will be burnt up, right? So I just want to bring that part out. So anyway, going back to Revelation 17:16, it says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, so this is NATO EU, these shall hate the whore, shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So once again, we know, which I didn't finish this, that many people will be joined with Russia to go against Israel and ultimately America. Ezekiel 38:4, it says to Russia, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shield, all of them handling swords, right? And we can see now Russia is a powerhouse that even the great United States is trying to run away from and make friends now, right? Peace and safety. When they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them. And like I just said, we have Israel already making their way over to America to tell America, listen, buddy, you're going to war, right? It says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomor, the northwards and all his bands, and many people would be. So the many people would be is going to be also American allies, because we just got you in Revelation 17, right? But you get Obadiah 1 and 7 in OT. It says, so this is against Edom, judgments announced, right? It says, all your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you, and you won't even know about it. So even though America now is trying to be buddy-buddy with Russia and leave his previous allies, and of course Russia will come against him. All right. That's why it says, here that these 10 horns gave their power unto the beast, right? Unto America. Revelation 17:17, for Yahweh hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. So that's prophecy. So it's prophesied that, these 10 horns, these NATO EU nations, which is more than 10 now, but they will be joined to America, right? Until it be fulfilled. So it was fulfilled. They were joined. So guess what? It's going to be fulfilled now that they turn away. Okay. It says, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So America currently is ruling, and they're trying to keep their power, but that their ruin is too grievous to heal. It's over for them, ultimately. Right. So that's what we're seeing here, and that's why basically Donald Trump is trying to flee away from these people. So it says the phrase the bulk of NATO's conventional defense capabilities refers to a significant strategic shift currently being demanded by the United States that European allies must assume the majority of the military forces and required for Europe's defense. And that was basically America's job. America was to help with that, but now they're saying, listen, you gotta, do your own thing. Basically, you gotta be able to protect yourself. So the phrase has been prominent in recent news late 2025 as U.S. officials, including from the Pentagon, have reportedly given European nations a 2027 deadline to take over most conventional defense roles, including intelligence, air defense, missiles, and ground troops. And ultimately, they're in complete fear. They're all over the news. Talking about different things. They're really trying to push for this Ukraine situation. Because they're afraid of Russia. All they're going to do is side with Russia. All right. So I just wanted to go into that, and pretty much that's it. Let me see. Okay, let me finish reading this. So Washington's new national security strategy, published on December 5th, aims to re-establish strategic stability with Russia. See, so they're trying to be buddy-buddy with Russia now, but that's not going to work. Right, for a long time now, they have, broken many different covenants with Russia, and even they're saying, let me see where I just read that. See, right here. And that's why I said often that, Russia, the Most High, Yahweh Bashmal Shah, is going to basically just the same way Israel is dragging, America into this war, the Most High, Yahweh Bashmal Shah, is dragging Russia into it too. Right? The Most High is turning Russia back because, Russia is still trying to be, buddy-buddy, kind of. And they believe, Trump is trying to be buddy-buddy with them. So anyway, it says threat of direct conflict between Russia, U.S., now and past, basically. It says relations between Russia and the United States are moving toward dialogue and common sense. With the threat of a direct conflict between the two countries having passed, a senior Russian lawmaker said, I think that we have already passed the point of no return between peace and war when there was a threat of confrontation between the two largest nuclear powers, what we saw during the former U.S. President Joe Biden administration. Now, step by step and small steps, I would say, things are returning to common sense to balance interaction on all the most difficult, situations, cases, issues. Chairman of the International Committee of Russian State Duma, or lower house parliament, and leaders said, right? Says now, in his words, efforts are needed to reduce the number of conflict, and that's the problem. Even though they're trying to be buddy-buddy, you got things like the different alliances being made between Russia and Iran and Venezuela and things like that, and America's obligation, right, to Israel, basically. And Israel has their plans, right? And it's all coming out that Israel is dragging America into all type of wars. They say that he's in Venezuela because of Israel and things like that. Some people say it's because Israel is about to attack Iran and Iran's going to close the Strait of Hormuz and it's going to stop oil flow, and America needs oil. So a lot of things that's happening and taking place. But, ultimately, war is definitely going to happen. Revelations 11:14 says the second terror is past. This is NLT. Says The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe coming quickly. All right. So anyway, I just want to bring it out. The NATO and EU basically is forced to do their own thing, and they're going to ultimately side with Russia, and attack America. So Lord willing, we edify from the lesson. Shalom. To the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.